When we started our businesses and financial advice practices, we were all like, it's our freedom and flexibility, and we want to build this business where I can live the life that I want to. And then you find that it's very hard to step away for a day or 3 days or a week, never mind a month or 3 months, or take a sabbatical for 6 months or a year. And if we do, it's quite like, oh no, what's going to happen? So questions are like, would it keep running well, or would everything start to slow down or even fall apart? I mean, particularly if we're so engrossed in checking everything before anything gets done. And all of this is really at the heart of today's episode, because I want to look at why financial advisors need to think beyond practice management. We've been talking about practice management for so long. My guest has been speaking about this much longer than I have, because when he started with this, I was in standard 6. So it's many, many years ago that he's been talking about this. He is definitely one of the people that has been foundational in getting that going in South Africa and starting to talk about it. I think it's really only starting to catch on now, but we already have to go beyond that. So I want to talk to him about that. Why are we getting stuck in certain places, and what can we do to build businesses that are stronger, that are clearer, and that are less dependent on us as the owners? Welcome to Propulsion, the weekly show for financial planners and advisors who want to build better, more successful businesses. I'm your host, Francois du Toit, and every week we dive into the practical strategies that matter, from growing your client base and improving your services to developing yourself and your team. Whether you're running your own practice or you're part of a larger firm, you are guaranteed to find actionable insights to help your business thrive. So with that, welcome, and let's get into today's episode. So Johann Maree is a highly respected voice in advice, business management, behavioral finance, and client engagement. With more than 35 years of experience across South Africa and Australia, he has worked with advisors and advice businesses at a senior level, helping them improve their business models, client processes, advisor behavior, and the way their firms are run. Johann brings a rare mix of leadership experience and behavioral insight and practical thinking about what it takes to build a stronger advice business. Johann Maree, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the show. Good morning, or good evening to you. I assume.
Late afternoon. So, good day. Thanks for having me, and goeiemorgen daar in South Africa.
Fantastic. Johann, thank you so much for joining me. And I'm looking forward to a good conversation where we want to focus on, I think where we really align a lot is to talk about business and not just practice. We prefer the term business management over practice management, etc. Although I guess both have its place. But I'm really keen to hear, in your view and your definition and the way that you look at it, what's the difference and why does this distinction truly matter for us as owners of firms?
Yeah, well, it's almost like a deja vu question, with the cuidas. You've heard all this BS before, but it's not. There is a distinct difference. It's a great question, and the language really matters. So your practice management, to me, is inward-facing. It's about the things we do, good advice, maintaining those professional standards, keeping your clients happy, staying compliant. Well, that's all essential things that you do in your business, but it's half the job. Where business management, I believe, is at a completely different level. It's about growth strategy. It's about looking at profitability. It's building an asset that has real value for you as an advisor. It's about succession planning and definitely creating systems that, especially now in the age of AI, that don't depend on you first picking up or pitching up at your job every day. The business can carry on without you. It can function. Most advisors, if you really are honest to yourself and with yourselves, they have set themselves up in a really good paying job, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But then the big question is, what next? What's the next level? Do you want to scale your business? You want to sell it? You want to step back? build something that outlasts you. And I think that's important. I think it's absolute travesty for someone to have a business, what you call a lifestyle practice, and then you retire and your business dies with you. So you can't even sell it. You just close down shop. I think you want to have a succession plan, and you want to bring other people into the business and have a different type of growth strategy, give something back. So that's your future look in terms of business management. So the risk of staying in a practice only mindset is really what I call an advisor trap. You're successful, but unscalable. You're profitable, but unsellable. Busy, but unable to create that next level, that leverage that you need. The business is sitting inside your head, sitting inside your relationships and your calendar. So business management asks different questions. So it looks at, what is your target market? What does your service model look like? And what does it cost to serve the clients? What are we worth? How do we grow without just depending on me, the advisor? How do we prepare for succession? And I can't answer this question without saying, in the coffee world, we all moving, and South Africa is moving into, regulators are asking the same question. So it's not just coffee. Regulators around the world are asking the same question. The same question a good business manager asks. And that's not a coincidence. From UK to Australia, to the States, they are embedding business management into the regulatory environment. And if you really read COFI carefully and clearly, and you can come read the Australian legislation as well, they are starting to put in things like governance, documented processes, client outcomes, fair value for the money you pay, conflict of interest management. They're not compliance boxes. Maybe someone is getting all the advisors to believe this is compliance, but it's not. These are all building blocks to a really well-run business. So advisors not asking COFI is not asking advisors to become regulators. It's asking them to become proper business owners. And I think that's really exciting. I think that's great foresight in terms of this impending regulation. And if you look at research around the world, it's scary. Nearly a third of advisors have got business plans. And the rest, they're operating a practice, not a business. So I think an advisor is a modern advisor is a CEO, and he's an advisor in the enterprise. And I think the sooner that advisor accepts that they're running an enterprise and they're growing something, it needs to have structure and infrastructure, it needs to have something of value, the better. So practice management then runs the advice function, and business management builds an asset worth keeping or selling.
Yeah. Johann, I don't know if I'm going to ask this question prematurely now, but because there's lots that we still need to talk about. And so two part. I guess I'm going to try and make this make sense. If we've got to come back to the one question, that's fine. But I think part of the thing right now is that, like, first of all, there are, like, I talk to people who they are struggling just to manage the 1 or 2 or 3 support staff that they've got. They have no inclination of getting more advisors into the business, or they just say that that's not what I want to do. It's just, I'm the advisor. I'm going to have this small team. So I think that's on the one side of it. And then on the other side of it is like, as you mentioned, we sometimes decide I'm going to retire and then the business will just not be anything. But now they've got sort of an out, because there's aggregators and there's all these people, larger FSPs in South Africa that says, "Now come and join us. We'll be your succession plan." So now there's a bit of an out. So there's some money there, I would assume, or there's at least something where they say that it makes them feel better about that part, because, like, I'm not just leaving my clients. So those are the two aspects that I maybe just want to delve into a little bit and get your view on that. What do you say to the guy or the lady who decides, like, look, it's just me and my small team. I don't want more people. I'm already don't enjoy managing people. What about them? And then on the other hand, the aggregation thing, like, is that part of the problem? I'm always going to say, because I don't have to run a great business.
No, each to his own, Francois. If your goal is to have a lifestyle practice that's lean, mean, it's just you and your yesterday, tomorrow, and the future back office assistants. Maybe one of them is a paraplanner. That's fine. But it's a good analogy. You know, if you're on the right track, and many advisors are on the right track, but here's the thing: they can get run over if they keep sitting there. And change and what's coming down the track for an advisor, you can't just keep sitting there. You have to change. So if you decide that you want to stay with the business that you have in this little environment, you have two options. One, are you going to sell it at the end of the day? It goes without saying, you can be efficient. You can put in infrastructure. You can have processes. I mean, I've visited lots of businesses where the front office don't even know what the back office is doing. The front office is the reception. They make the phone calls. They do the appointments. Sometimes the advisor doesn't even know what the back office is doing. So you get different kinds of operations. But there's nothing wrong with having a well-run, lean, mean, efficient lifestyle practice. Absolutely not. The ones that are going through to the aggregators, well, again, it depends because, and by the way, if you're having that lean, mean lifestyle business, you still need to know what it's worth. I think running your business and not even knowing what it's worth is a travesty because you're sitting on an asset and that will dictate what you want to do. But if you're going to wait, and that is human nature, I saw it in Australia, lots of advisors wait, starts getting expensive, and they sell the business or they just sell their clients. Most people won't buy your business because it comes with all sorts of fraud issues. They'll probably just buy your clients. And for that, you're going to get a bad multiple. You get some money. But again, it just depends. What is it that you want? And that's why business planning, looking forward into the future, is important because you can set your business up to sell. And you can invest in your business to sell. And then someone buys your business, not just your clients. And you probably get a much bigger multiple in Australian terms, probably a multiple of 5 to 8 times what your business is worth. But just remember, Australia, we've already moved to fees, not commission. So if you've got a commission business, lifestyle practice, I think you're running a risk. So you probably just have to sell your clients. So there's no right or wrong answer here. The bottom line is have a plan. What are you working towards personally? You can be lean or mean, or are you going to merge into a bigger machine where they've got infrastructure, you share overheads and costs, and that's why we've got these big dealer groups in Australia where you can access, they've got the infrastructure, the software, the processes, and there's a massive saving. You can save, 20-30% of your gross profit just by moving into a mothership, so to speak. So I don't know if that kind of sets the scene for answering your question, but have a plan, have a structure, you need to have a goal. That's coming back to sort of what is it that you want?
Yep. And then that clarity, I think, is really, really important. But also in that same vein is that there are a lot of the ways that you would build a bigger business that is absolutely critical to make sure that small practice, say small like lifestyle practice or whatever, run as efficiently as possible, and that you don't have issues with staff, and that you recruit well, and all of those kinds of things. For example, those are principles, right? That applies to both. And maybe just briefly or just quickly on, what are some of the biggest signs that an advice business is being run like a job for the owner instead of a real business?
Okay. Again, another good question. There's patterns. When you're visiting different businesses and talking to advisors, there are patterns. And the first big one comes back to sort of normally a lifestyle type practice. But if a business can't last without the owner, so you go on holiday and you keep on getting bugged by your staff or your clients, you've got issues. So if your business, you can go away for 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, which you deserve, and the business can survive without you, then you're on a good path. The other one is, and I've talked about it earlier, is there's no business plan. So so many advisors make good decisions with gut feel, but they don't have a plan, no vision, no strategic direction, and no way of measuring whether they're moving forward. So that is critical. And a business plan is not just something that is nice and shiny. It's something that you keep going back to. It should be a living document in your business. If you've got a small team, you need to keep coming back to that on a regular basis to see, are we on track? Do we need to tweak it? Do we need to change it? And the other one is understanding your numbers. So if I go into business and say, what does it cost you to serve a client? Let's think about all the steps in your workflow process. Have you costed that? How many staff are involved in that? So yes, it's going down to the nitty gritty. But once you've done that, you get a fair feel, because if a client ever contests, why are you charging me so much? You can call out and say, listen, these are all the things we do. It takes about X amount of hours, and that's why I'm charging you, 5,000 RON for a plan. And how much profit are you making? Because once you start doing client segmentation and get into that space, you find, and I found it every single time, is that your top 20% clients are sponsoring the 80%. And if those 20% clients knew they were sponsoring everyone else through their fees, you're going to be in trouble. And how much revenue are you making as an advisor? How much does it cost you to bring a client on board? So that's the third one. Is know your numbers really, know the mechanics, your profitability ratios in the business. And you should do it because you're doing your financials on an annual basis. You've got a bookkeeper, you're doing your audits. So the numbers are there. This information is pretty easy to obtain. And coming back to segmentation, so many businesses are top heavy. They've got so many clients that they are servicing. And inside that, they're getting referrals from birds of a feather, same kind of client. So you're doing a friend a favor. So you've got to be careful about your target market and segmentation. If you do a segmentation exercise, and there's different ways of doing it, but the Pareto principle applies. I had an advisor I worked with here in Australia that ended up doing the numbers, and when he showed me his spreadsheet and said that 10% of his clients are paying him 95% of his fees, he got a really, really big fright. And there are a couple of good stories in the South African environmental advisors I worked with. Some of them went on to become practice of the year and planners of the year. But they've been there. All these top guys have started in the trenches. They've learned, they've changed. They've made a difference in their clients' lives and in their colleagues' lives. And the other one is no succession plan. So you need to build to succession. And the succession plan could, let's say it's an exit plan as well, because if you're going to shut down shop, you owe it to your clients. You don't want to leave your clients hanging. And if your clients are asking you, what's going to happen to me when something happens to you, your business is already in trouble. And the last one, if I ask an advisor to tell me what their business is worth, they should be able to give me that number. Not 100%, but approximate. We think it's worth this, and this is the reason why. But having said all of these, 5 or 6 things, doesn't mean you've got a bad business. It just means that you haven't made that shift. I think it was Michael Gerbert talks about the technician and the entrepreneur business owner. So it's that kind of, everyone's familiar with that. It's that you're still great at your job, but you haven't made the next move. So if your business stops when you stop, you built a job, not a business.
Yeah. And that's, Johann, it's an interesting thing, because the seminar that Lene was referring to, the bulk of the people there, not the bulk, I would go out on the limb and say that the majority of us there have a job and not a business from that sense. And this is something we've been working on. Like, it's been on my radar now for 4 years. If you look at my business plan, every single year, it's to remove me as the face of propulsion and let propulsion be propulsion. And we've only really started doing that in the last year. So slowly but surely, you'll see I'm less and less like in the front. It's becoming more Ben and other people and so forth. So that's something that I'm trying to get right. And it's not an easy thing to do, right? Because you love this thing and there's your way of doing it and you got it to where it is.
Okay.
So there's a lot of psychology and emotion and all that kind of stuff involved in this process. But the one thing I can say is, hell, man, on the other side of that, even though I've only gotten like, there's maybe 2 things that I've managed to really do this part well, and there's still like a list of things where we need to get it right. But hell, the difference that makes to me and in my life is absolutely incredible. So it's just that letting go part has always been difficult for us as financial planners and advisors and so on. I mean, we really care. And that's probably the thing that's also holding us back sometimes. I don't say care less, but don't be afraid to put some of this stuff in place.
Yeah.
One of the things you briefly touched on was you mentioned segmentation, and then my brain went to segmentation, right? So segmentation is something, and Wouter actually said this on the very first episode of the season. Wouter made a comment, and then Mark Hederman, who was my second guest from Ireland on the second episode, he also made a comment. And now I want to ask you this question around segmentation. This is something that everybody grapples with. Because it's fine to look at the numbers and get everything together and then see who's my top clients and it's very much AUM driven or fee driven or some form of metric, but it doesn't really make it easy to really hone in a service proposition for these people necessarily. So a lot of people find it very difficult to do that. And also, as you said, then what do we do? Oh, these are our top clients, so they get everything, whether they need it or not. They get everything because they pay us a lot of money. So we try and I think there's a disconnect there. So in your, I mean, you've now helped people with this and you write about this and you talk about this and all of it, but how can we make segmentation simpler? How can we do it properly? How do we just make it practical and help us? Because I find this difficult as well.
Well, it's not practical and it's not easy because we're dealing with a couple of things. The first one is with all the biggest thing, and Francois, I have to say it because it's it's so true. That person who loves change is a baby with a wet nappy, and and really change is difficult, and people really need to get the courage to make that change. But I think the biggest reason that's holding advisors back from moving into exploring client segmentation more and more is guilt. You think about it. You talked about it takes 2 or 3 years to build your business to get to a stage where you're confident and you can start delegating and start taking a step back and be more involved in maybe the strategic approach because someone else is now doing the hard work on the ground. But we built our business on relationships. You say everyone, Dina Katz talks about, as long as a client can fog a mirror and they got a cent in the pocket, we sell them. That's how this industry started. And then it started to change. But you still have to start somewhere. No one gets given an advice business with an infrastructure and beautiful clients and a nice turnover. It's hard. And you built loyal relationships and people on the ground. And now we get someone like me coming in and say you must segment your clients. And what about the relationships? What about the people? It's very, very difficult. And advisors then tend to feel disloyal. They're betraying this trust that they've built up with their clients. But what is even more scary, international research shows us, even here in Australia, UK, that only 37% of advice businesses have actually gotten there. So it's an international problem. So it's just South Africa. And what does that mean? Let me just go through some stats quickly because you kind of set the scene to understand that this is a big problem and there is a resolution or there is a solution for you. But if you do proper client segmentation and the stats show roughly 51% of advisors are holding unprofitable clients internationally. And then you think about that, the cost to serve, administration time, meeting time, compliance. Ben was just talking about how you can save more time with technology, the phone calls, the follow-up, all of this admin is time consuming. And the other thing about all this admin, we never ever tell our clients what it is that we do. I've never, try and get advice to document their process to say, this is what we do. And this is why it costs $5,000. I'd rather charge a client $2,500 for a plan so I can lock the client in, but I'm actually breaking even while making a loss. And somewhere during the year, I might pick up another client that's going to pay me $7,500 for a plan. And then we can play with the averages. And that's when you start running into trouble. But the bottom line is half your client base is costing an advisor money. So first thing they need to do to get into this whole segmentation space is understand how much it costs to actually serve a client, to put that client on your books, because that kind of gets your break-even cost. Secondly, you need to rank those clients in terms of revenue, existing clients, revenue and profitability. And that's important, not the size of their portfolio, just the revenue that they bring in to you. And then maybe you have those clients into tiers, maybe 2 or 3 tiers, and then try and build a value proposition or a service proposition or promise for each one. What do they get? How often they get it? What channels they get it? Remember, we're moving into this AI world. I'm seeing more and more advisors. You can be lean, mean. You can have. I spoke to a colleague the other day, and he's just set up something in AI that he's running 5 employees, and they're all in AI. 5 employees, they're all AI. But I won't get too much into AI. I'll scare advisors a little bit with that, but it's coming. You can be incredibly profitable, and you could have AI running your business and your workflows for you. So that is around the corner. So once you've done that, you can review your pricing tiers. And then when you've got clients who fall outside of this model that you've decided is your sweet spot, and you're going to have clients which fall outside that, you either need to transition them into one of those tiers, or you need to transition them out. So in other words, you try and work with them to fit in and explain to them why there's a solution, especially if you've got a good relationship, or you transition them out. And you might even have, there's nothing wrong by having a 4th tier or 5th tier model, which says, I'm here, I'll keep you on my books, you're part of my newsletter, there's a minimal fee that you pay me annually, but you're not going to get service from me. I'll keep your records. That the fee you're paying me is basically to keep the records. I'll keep you on the books. And then we'll move over to, which I think is going to happen more and more, is a transaction fee. So the lower end of your clients might say, oh, something's happened. I need a will, I need a beneficiary nomination, and you'll charge them a fee or a rate to do that. We're not going to do the ongoing fee. We're not going to charge them for the plan because they don't need a plan. They're just there. Or you hand them over to a junior in your business. So that's the internal succession plan with segmentation. What I'm trying to get to here, segmentation isn't about treating clients badly. It's about treating different clients appropriately. I think it's Business Health here in Australia that said you treat every single client with love and respect, but you cannot treat them the same. And I think that kind of sums it up. If we start treating 150 clients the same, the business can run into trouble. You have to segment, you have to break things down, you have to have service structure. So it starts really by trying to understand what it costs to bring your client on board, and then build nice service tiers around that. And yes, you're going to have to let some clients go. Some clients you're going to increase your fees. A good mate of mine, Peter Sullivan, always said, why are you worried about fees and charging fees? Increase your fees, increase your proposition, create value for money. Some clients will then discontinue their service with you, so they're firing themselves. You don't have to say anything. Your fees increase, they fire themselves, and then you have more space to hunt for other clients. What is interesting is those clients, those are advice business that have gone in and done the segmentation exercise. Within 6 months to a year, they are generating 25 to 30% more revenue. And it's easy, it's psychology. You know, if you ever bought a brand new car and you've been doing your research, you look around, you get the car and you buy it. The next day you get in the car, you notice everyone's got the same car. And you thought it was unique. And that's the same thing here. When you understand what your service model is and what your ideal client profile looks like, you then start getting more. And that's natural. A lot of advisors say never going to happen to me until they've done the exercise. And I'm sure if you go and talk to voter and planners of the year, they'll tell you they suffered through the same kind of anxiety about making this change. But when they built their business model to start servicing those clients, the clients started coming. You started getting the referrals. So this doesn't happen overnight. It's something that is, again, planned. There's steps that you need to take. And I really want to reiterate this here, is that segmentation is not about treating your clients badly. It's about treating them appropriately. And it's no skin on your nose to let clients go. I hope that answers that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the way I tend to put that is to say, well, you can service your clients the same, but that you can't give them the same services. So which comes down to, like, you can still care about them and look after them well, but what you do is, the things you do for them is different. Not how you do them, but what you do is different. So that's really important. And also, if you have too many of those things, it becomes hard to manage, like across the client base. So you also don't want to over engineer that kind of stuff. But then also, like you also now touched on fees, Johan. So this is also a sticky thing in South Africa, particularly. And again, like I always say, if it's not doable, why are some people doing it? Because we work with some advisors who are absolutely fee only. Like that's what they do. There's no commissions, there's no AUM, there's no nothing. If there is an AUM, it's a very calculated amount that is being paid. It's more a payment facilitation thing than a fee. So they will calculate the fees every single year, adjust it, and that's how they're building their business, and they're growing. And so, if I recall correctly from some of our conversations, you have helped thousands of clients move to fee for service. What have you learned from that process? What works? What doesn't work? Is there really, because a lot of people say, yeah, but most people in South Africa can't afford it. So that's why commission will never go away. That's why AUM will never go away. Just maybe your views on that.
Well, I'll take a quick step back if I can. What a story, but I'm not going to reveal the name. But there's a guy in South Africa up north before I moved overseas, probably about 13, 14, 15 years ago. And this guy used to instruct clients. He operated like a professional attorney firm, and he was charging fees 15 years ago. And I'm absolutely astounded that we still in South Africa can have this discussion about fees and commission. This regulation, COFI, is going to force advisors to think a little bit differently about how they charge. Anyway, so this person was doing it 15 years ago, and we're still talking about it today, and he does it incredibly successfully. I learned a lot from him as well. However, when about 4 years ago, just before COVID came in, I was sitting with a national practice manager of a big distribution, big company in Australia. And we had to move because of the regulation. We had to move 3,500 clients off a ongoing percentage asset under management to a fee. So the big lesson that I got out of that, the first one, there's a couple, is we had to do some segmentation, understand the client's cost to serve. You have to go through that exercise. But here's this thing. Don't sell the fee. You never sell the fee. You sell the service. So you have to go and do some homework. That segmentation exercise is actually part of this fee environment. And you can't just start justifying a fee in isolation. You're going to lose. So you need to think about the things that you do. Just think quickly. You do planning as an advisor. There's reviews, ongoing reviews. You've got proactive advice. You've got access to the advisor and the team. There's accountability. There's coaching. There's engagement with the client's family. There's communication during volatile markets. Don't run away when the market's volatile. That's when you up your communication. The fee starts becoming obvious in the discussion. The other one is clients don't understand what they're paying for. And that's why I believe invoicing, and that's one thing I learned those 15 years ago, is that show them what it costs to actually implement their plan for them. Show them your process. Show them your back office. Invite them into the business to meet the team. You've got an infrastructure. This all costs money. This team is here to help them. And in the days of the war and the petrol, but the fees are the petrol that keep the business going, so I can serve you better. 61%, 95% of advisors probably say that they can explain their costs and their fees to clients properly. And yet 60% of clients say that advisors are very poor at doing that. And it's because they don't show. Have you documented your workflow? Have you got a map to say, Mr. Client, this is where you come in. These are the things we're going to do for you. We're going to have 3 or 4 meetings. You're going to get these kind of documents. Then we're going to implement, and then we're going to review. And when you review, it's going to be these things we're going to do for you. And then you actually deliver to that map. That's when the client gets it. Okay, that is $3,500 a year. I can live with that. And you deliver to that, which Kofi is going to force you to deliver, because in Australia, fee for service was huge. We had a Royal Commission that threw people with big fines and embarrassed them because they were charging fees for no service. So that is here. It's imminent, and you need to think about this, because I think Anton keeps on saying, yes, it's going to take 3 years to implement. It is going to take 3 years. We break it down. It's going to take 3. This is not something you can do in 4 months. We saw it in Australia. Making this change into this environment, you have to pace yourself. You have to plan. You've got to approach those clients. You've got to transition the clients across. That's one of the reasons why we had a service proposition, which was 3. Behaviorally, clients will go for the middle proposition. So we loaded the middle proposition because that's where we got most bang for buck. It was our most profitable. So we had basic proposition, high-end proposition, middle one. Clients in high-end downgraded. And what we also found really interesting with the fee, you can't charge someone top-end fee for more than 5 years. As soon as the client has implemented the plan, in other words, you've got a SOA, and that SOA is implemented. And they could go with the statement of advice in Australia, but let's call it a financial plan. It might take 2 or 3 years to implement the plan for the client properly. As soon as that's done, you can't keep on charging the same fee. You're going to have to go back with the client and renegotiate your costs. And you need to do that because someone else is going to be there and take your client away from you. So I'd rather get the client to move down those tiers and play with those tiers until they get to the transaction one where they agree to pay you a fee for service, and you've got a client portal and you service them differently. So you have to pace. That could, with a client base, to transition a big client base can take 6 months to 18 months. It took us 18 months with 3,500 clients. And we probably lost about 20% of those clients in that 18-month period. But here's the thing. About 50% of those clients that we lost came back. So it's not as bad as everyone thinks. The other lesson is that when you work fee for service, your relationship changes. You're moving more from a salesperson into a consultant or a trusted life planner, so to speak. So you're focusing less on short term. You're focusing on the life planning part of it, which is all the behavioral stuff, which is where the FPI or FPA and the Certified Financial Planning Board of Standards have done a lot of work on the psychology of financial planning. And I see the FPI has got some good courses there on that. That's critical. That's coming. And as AI is moving more and more into our lives, that's coming. And all of these things are part of the package to be able to say, this is my value proposition. And this is what you're going to pay me for. And the clients experience that. So they can actually feel it. They can see it. You're tangibilizing the service. They value that far more. And the big kick out of all of this is you're going to get, we talked earlier about the life practice or the aggregators and so on. If you've got a fee-based practice and you've got infrastructure that runs that, you are going to get prime when you exit your business. You are going to make, that is your retirement fund. That is big money because you're in that. You've got recurring income stream, loyal clients. Those clients normally bring their family in. They give you more referrals. They, as Moira Summers says, you've got sticky clients. So that's what fees bring to you. It's not a debate about fees or commission or the clients won't do it. Clients will do it. They understand it. They appreciate it. And if you can show them what that proposition looks like and put a fee to, let's say, those 3 tiers that you have, they will sign up. So don't sell the fee, sell the service and also the outcome that service delivers.
Awesome. Johann, so let's bring this home, not to South Africa. I mean, just let's come to a close. So I'm going to give you another 2 minutes because, like, I'm like, there's lots of people sitting here. Some are going like, nope, it's still, I'm just going to keep going until they make me change, and that's fine. We've seen that over and over again. There are other people who are forward thinking, sitting here, okay, so how can I take what Johann is sharing and what parts of this can I implement in my business, and what will work for us, or what do we think will work for us, and then get to work and go and do it. So for those who are sitting here, so I want to run a better business, I want to build a better business, all of that. What are the first three? I mean, not knowing where they are at this stage, because obviously it matters where they are in their life stage in their business.
Yeah.
But what are maybe first three actions that they should take in the next 3 months?
Okay. Sure. You want me to smash through this? So this is basically where the podcast ends and the work begins, really. But I want to answer this question properly if I can, because it's right. This is probably the most important question that you've asked me. But
Yes, no, please do.
Today we're Friday. What does an advisor do listening? The team that's sitting here, the community, what do they do on Monday? If you want to help people, you need to do something different. And I think there's three big things. Not 10, it's not a program, just three things. I think the first thing is take stock. You've got to do an assessment. Now, if you're really battling, ask ChatGPT to build an assessment for you. It will. Prompt it, it'll build an assessment, or get to a system. I know on the business that we're setting up to help advisors with, it's got assessments. So you need to do an assessment. That allows you to understand where you are, which is great. You've taken stock. It's like a health check. Then know your numbers. Understand what your numbers are, how much it costs to serve, who you're paying, all your operational costs. Understand, go to talk to your bookkeeper, your accountant, get them to assist you with that. So once you understand your numbers, that's great. Once you've taken stock, that's great. That's the first one. Second one is sit down and write a one-page business plan, not a 50-page strategy document, just a one-page plan. Maybe I can give you something like that, Francois. If you haven't got one, happy to let you have a sort of a template, one-page template that might help. And then it asks you, what do you serve? Who do you offer this to? What does it cost? What's the revenue target? And just work on those priorities for the next 12 months. And the third one is have 5 courageous fee discussions. This is seriously important. Go to your 5 most valuable clients that you get on well with, that've been with you for a number of years, and have a conversation about the value that you deliver. It's not a pitch, you're having a conversation. Find out from them what matters to them, why they value your service, what could you do better as an advisor, are they clear on exactly what they pay for, what they receive in return. And I think those are the 3 things. That's it. If you can do that, it gives you the courage to jump over into taking up the challenge. But I'm going to end with this, really. And this is the part I want every advisor sitting here listening. South African advice and in South Africa, you're sitting at a crossroads with this regulation. I've seen it in Australia. We all know what's happened in the UK. And it's not a compliance project. This is not a selling act before COFI's promulgated thing. It's about business management. You have to understand that regulators are looking at documented processes. That's business management. They're looking at the evidence of the value you provide clients. So having that discussion with clients about the value and trying to get a fee for it helps you with that. Be transparent about your pricing. Fee for service is coming. Look to Australia. The work has been done for you. You can just copy it and copy the models and implement them in your business there in South Africa. Look at the governance frameworks. Look at the ongoing monitoring. All of this is business management. It's not regulation. It's not COFI. So I urge advisors to think about this, because the challenge you have is this. If you don't do business management properly, not COFI, if you don't do business management properly in the next 2 to 3 years, AI is going to replace 80% of what it is that you do. And you won't be able to compete. So put those structures in place now, then AI will help you and enable you to run a fantastic business going forward. And I think AI is a greater threat than COFI, or greater threat than regulation. So put an infrastructure in place, do those 3 things, know your numbers, write your plan, be courageous. And advisors who build real businesses today will not just survive what's coming, They will own what's coming. Thank you for having
Awesome.
me.
Thanks, Johann. There are some fantastic questions here, but if I'm going to ask you all these questions now, we're going to go for another hour. So, Johann, I'm just going to do this live on air. Do you mind coming back next week? And let's delve into some of these questions that people are asking, which I'll share with you. And I also, like, if you've got any particular questions, can you come back next week, Johann? Like, let me ask it that way. Can you?
Yeah, I'm sure I can make a plan. So I'm sure I can do that for you.
So please put your questions in the chat now that you might have for Johann, and we'll build next week's episode around that. We'll just get into those questions. So we're not going to provide context and sort of have a storyline or anything. We're going to answer your questions. And so please send them. If you missed to do it here, please send it to me in the community or on WhatsApp or wherever you can get hold of me. So that we can ask, because these are really, really powerful questions and very practical questions. I think people get the what and the why, but like how, and that you can see all these questions are about that. So please send us your questions, and then we'll have Johann back next week so that we can talk about those, because we're already 15 minutes over time at this point. So, but on that note, Johann, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. And we look forward to chatting to you again next week.
Nice to be here. Bye, dankie. Tot ziens.
All right, great. Thank you so much again to Johann Maree for spending his time with us and sharing his views on the world. And I think sometimes, like it's necessary to hear things that we don't like hearing. It's often valuable. And sometimes when the time is right, we hear it a little bit differently from how we heard it previously. So I really appreciate that. Then with that, I want to wish you a fantastic weekend. We'll see you back next week, same time, same place. And as you now know, Johann will be our guest for part 2 next week to answer your questions. So please send us your questions. Please put them in the chat right now, or send them to me, if you want. Most of you have got my number, so you're welcome to do that. But on that note, have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe, be blessed and prosper. Stay curious and continue to raise the bar. I love you lots. Bye. Thanks for joining us on Propulsion. If you found value in today's episode, then there's plenty more where this came from. You can find all our previous episodes right here on the podcast, as well as on our YouTube channel. And talking about the YouTube channel, we go live every single Friday at 8 a.m. until 9 a.m. and we host many different guests, and we also talk about very interesting topics. And on the live show, there's also some incredible segments hosted by some of the most well-known and influential financial planning professionals. So you are most welcome to join us every single Friday. Put it in your diary and we will see you there. And on that note, also please do check out propulsion.co.za/community for all of the goodness and learn more about how you can become part of our amazing community and how that would benefit you, your business and your career. So on that note, stay curious and keep raising the bar.